Imagine this: every nation on earth, the United States, China, Japan, Germany, India, all drowning in debt. Trillions owed. Governments borrowing from themselves, from others, from the system. The global debt clock spins faster each second. But here's the question that almost no one ever asks. If every country owes money, then who is everyone in debt to? Who's the creditor sitting above it all, collecting interest from the entire planet? This is the hidden story of how debt became the foundation of modern civilization, a system so vast, so deeply woven into every part of the economy, that most people never even realize they heap part of it. Long ago, money wasn't a number on a screen. It was physical: gold, silver, salt, grain, something you could hold. That existed, but it was personal. You borrowed from your neighbor, not from a faceless system. That all changed when kingdoms discovered a secret. You could create money by creating debt. During the rise of European empires, monarchs constantly needed funds for wars and conquests. But gold was limited, so they turned to bankers, families like the Medici, and later the Rothschilds, who realized they could lend more than they actually had, as long as people believed it existed. This was the birth of fractional banking, a system that allowed money to multiply out of promises. For every coin deposited, multiple loans could be created. That was the first major shift. Money stopped being a thing and started being a claim on a thing. When the Bank of England was established in 1694, it perfected this model. The crown borrowed money from private financiers, and in return, gave them the right to issue notes, promises backed by future taxes. The people didn't realize it yet, but their labor had become collateral for the kingdom's debt. From there, the model spread like wildfire. Every major power adopted some form of central banking. France, the Netherlands, eventually, the United States. The system worked because it created an illusion that money and debt were different things, when in fact, they were two sides of the same coin. In 1913, something historic happened: the creation of the Federal Reserve in the United States. It was sold to the public as a way to stabilize the economy, prevent panics, and keep the dollar safe. But what it truly did was hand the power of money creation to a private banking cartel, backed by the government's promise to repay with interest. From that moment, the U.S. government, like all others, no longer issued its own money. It borrowed it into existence. Every dollar in your wallet is born as debt. Someone owes it, and someone earns interest on it. So who, exactly, is the creditor? It isn't one person or one family sitting in a dark room. It's a network! A global web of central banks, private lenders, financial institutions, and corporations, each lending to each other, each profiting from interest payments on money that didn't exist until they decided it should. When the U.S. borrows money, it issues treasury bonds. Other countries buy them. Banks buy them. Even the Federal Reserve buys them using newly created dollars. That means America borrows from money that didn't exist an hour ago, created by its own central bank, and then pays interest on it. This cycle repeats across the world. Japan issues bonds. The European Central Bank buys them. The IMF and World Bank lend to developing countries money created from nothing and demand repayment with real resources: labor, land, and future taxes. It's a brilliant design because it never ends. The world runs not on production, but on obligation. You might think debt is a sign of weakness, but in this system, it's power. Nations that owe the most often control the rules because their debt is someone else's asset. The U.S., for example, has over $35 trillion in debt, yet the dollar remains the backbone of global trade. Why? Because other countries hold U.S. debt as their reserves. The creditor isn't outside America, it is America through its financial reach. And yet, this empire of debt has a dark side. It forces constant growth. If money is created through borrowing, the world must always owe more tomorrow than it did today. That's why economies crash when growth stops, because the system needs expansion to survive. Every crisis, every bailout, every stimulus package, it's all new debt, pretending to fix old debt. The 2008 financial collapse didn't end the problem. It expanded it. Banks were saved by governments that borrowed more from the same system that caused the crash. It's a perfect trap. Every rescue makes the captors stronger. Today, the numbers are staggering. Global debt has surpassed $320 trillion, more than 3 times the world's total economic output. If every country tried to pay it off, there wouldn't be enough money in existence to do so, because money itself is the debt. Erase the debt, and the money supply disappears. So when we ask, who's the creditor? The unsettling answer is, there isn't one single entity. The creditor is the system itself. The banks, the funds, the institutions, the central banks, all feeding each other, all profiting from the same cycle. The world doesn't owe a person. It owes an idea, the belief that debt equals wealth, and that endless borrowing can last forever. And yet, history warns us that it never does. Empires collapse when their debt outgrows their ability to control it. Rome debased its currency. France's monarchy drowned in debt before its revolution. The British Empire fell under the weight of post-war loans. The US and modern economies are repeating the same pattern, but on a global scale. Every digital transaction, every loan, every government promise rests on confidence. If that confidence breaks, if people stop believing the system can pay itself back, everything built on top of it begins to crumble. So what can we take away from this hidden reality? First, money and debt are the same thing. When the world borrows, it's not just creating obligation, it's creating the very money we use. Second, the real creditor is control. The power isn't in the cash, it's in the claim. Those who own the debt own the system. And third, infinite growth on a finite planet is an illusion. The system must expand to survive. But at some point, the numbers stop making sense. When that happens, resets occur. New currencies, new rules, new winners and losers. So the next time you hear that every country is in debt, remember, that's not a flaw. It's the design. And the true creditor isn't a nation or a man. It's the invisible machine that turns promises into power.